My name is Miracle Onyebuchim from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Of course, I'm an ICANN NextGen participant. I want to first start by saying thank you to ICANN for this opportunity and to my fellow NextGen participants. And also thank you to my mentor, Navid, who has been very helpful in guiding us through this process. Today, I'm going to talk about something that I've been working with my professor over the last 12 months at the Cyber Secure Lab at UMBC. The Cyber Secure Lab just focuses on research to make the internet more secure and accessible. So we're going to talk about K-12 students and the future of the internet. K-12 in the US, refers to students that in kindergarten, from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. So today we're going to talk about how the internet is changing how they learn and interact. We're going to look at evolving trends and how these trends in technology and in the internet impact students, and see how we can improve education, right? Especially computing education, using all of these things. And lastly, see if there's any role ICANN can play in, sort of helping improve that. Right, so let's start by just giving an overview of K-12 computing education today. And the data was really surprising. We worked with educators and teachers across the DMV region and the state of Maryland. And it was shocking to realize that students don't find computing classes engaging today. So if you look at class enrollment records from kindergarten to grade 12, the computing classes are usually the ones with the least enrollment numbers because students don't find these classes engaging. They feel the content is outdated. Teachers are teaching them how to use Microsoft Word, but they've evolved beyond Microsoft Word. They're doing interesting things. They want to learn how to design games on Roblox. They want to learn how to do very exciting things. And they're just bored. The methods that teachers use in communicating and teaching these things are just not engaging and interactive enough. The danger of that is that we're producing the next generation of internet users that are lacking very core computing skills, and they don't understand concepts that they need to safeguard themselves against harm in the internet of tomorrow, where trends like AI is fastly and rapidly changing how we interact with the internet. If these students are not fully aware of how to leverage these opportunities, there's going to be a huge lacuna in the future. And now, since we're talking about the future, what does that future really look like? We talk about the future of the internet. Of course, I don't think there's been any ICANN session where AI has not been mentioned. So you can already tell that AI is going to be very transformative to how we learn in the future. But because AI is also becoming mainstream, it means that the kind of skill we need for tomorrow has also evolved. Students don't necessarily need to learn how to code, but rather they need to know how to think. Problem-solving skills, digital literacy, and critical thinking are the key skills that will be needed for the internet tomorrow. 20 years ago, you needed to know how to do front end, back end, but those skills are becoming really irrelevant for the future of tomorrow. AI is also going to change how we learn with education, especially in a classroom setting. With AI, you can personalize learning for students. One of the biggest challenges with traditional methods of education today is that you're teaching 20 people in a room, but they all learn in different ways. Their assimilation is different, but there's no personalization for all of them. But with AI, we think that we're going to see improvements in how education is delivered to students. The other thing as well is that there's going to be a lot of digital responsibility required for the future. If most of the future is going to be on the internet, people need to know how to be responsible for the kind of things they put online. They need to be they need to know how to verify information before they spread that. And that's probably why we see a proliferation of misinformation today, because the kind of digital responsibility skills required are not being taught. People don't know how to verify information, they don't know how to keep their PIs safe, and it's portending a danger for tomorrow because cyber threat is on the rise. Bad actors are continually trying to find ways to, cause more damage and harm. And so ethical digital interactions will be very important and play a key role in the future of tomorrow. Even in ICANN, most of the conversations that generate a lot of ruckus is really around how do you protect privacy, how do you protect users, and that's going to become mainstream even as we continue. Anyway, so what's really the way forward? The context here is we have a generation that's not fully equipped for the future of tomorrow. And we have a tomorrow that's going to be heavily reliant on the internet. So how do we combine both together? I think the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out ways to make computing education more fun and realistic. These same students that don't enroll in these computing classes, from our research, talking to students and talking to teachers, these same students, those that their parents can afford it, they enroll in after-school coding clubs because those coding clubs have better gadgets, it's more fun. But the danger of that is not every parent can afford to enroll their child in after-school coding clubs. So we need to find ways to make the traditional computing education classes very interactive, very project-based, bring real-world applications in, use VR, all of these things that would be really very exciting for these students. It also needs to be personalized. A student might be interested in AI, but someone is interested in designing games. Someone is interested in user experience. Instead of teaching everybody in the class the same thing, we need to find ways to personalize that. We also need to find ways to provide hardware and software tools. Part of what we realized is that schools in very poor districts, they barely have enough gadgets to go around. But schools in very affluent districts, they have enough money, they have gadgets. In fact, students can take those gadgets home. We see a correlation between schools in affluent neighborhoods and the enrollment numbers in computing classes in those. We see that it's slightly higher than those in very poor districts. So we need to find ways to democratize access to software tools in schools. The reason why we need to do this is that, of course, if we do that, it solves some of the challenges that we have. Students become more interested, and as they get more interested, they learn the skills that are required for the internet of tomorrow. And I need us to remember that these are the students that will rule the internet of tomorrow, not us sitting in this room. So it's very important that we provide them with the required skills that they need. And of course, it would also solve some of the issues we are having with abuse and just cyber attacks and cyber threats and all of that. Okay, so how can ICANN really come in here? Tough to think through how I can help because of ICANN structure. I think there are a couple ways ICANN is already helping, and I think ICANN can also do more. Number one is we can leverage some of the existing programs in ICANN. ICANN grant program can fund curriculum development and teacher training. If you remember, some of the issues is that the curriculum is currently outdated. Even the research that we are doing in trying to change and update the curriculum in the state of Maryland is funded by private organizations. It's not funded by the government. Perhaps ICANN can fund that. The challenge with the US is education is centralized. It's state by state. You need to do this across all 50 states. The second thing we need to do is also teacher training. A lot of the work that ICANN is doing, especially the ICANN engagement team with NextGen, with the fellows, we need to see how we can bring teachers into some of that. A lot of teachers don't know anything about how the internet works. They don't know anything about DNS, and they're expected to teach the next generation. So perhaps ICANN can look to fund some program for computing educators, and also perhaps see how we can integrate some of the key things that is relevant to ICANN in computing education. You talk to students, they don't know how the internet works, they don't know what DNS is and all of that. The other thing we can do is I can also advocate and champion policies. A lot of the work we're doing in the state of Maryland was championed by the Cyber Secure Lab. Perhaps representatives in other states can advocate for the review of the computing education curriculum in your state, and also help in providing resources to change that. The other thing that we can do is that there's also a shortage of qualified computer science teachers today in the US. If you go to K-12 schools, most of the schools we went to, some of them don't even have computer science teachers because there's just no qualified teachers. So what can we do to make sure we have enough qualified teachers to teach the next generation? The reason why I think ICANN should really be interested in this is that, content moderation is always a debate that I can want to step away from. But one of the ways that we can perhaps fix content moderation so that in the next 10 years, when we come to ICANN meetings, it's not a topic, is to help educate the next generation of internet users. I believe that if we have proper education, we would have fewer systemic risk in the internet. So I think ICANN perhaps should look at how we can leverage some of our existing programs to do that. And at the end of the day, we want a secure, interoperable internet. What best way to have a secure internet than to teach security concepts to the internet users, teach them digital responsibility, ethical responsibility, so that they are all aligned and there's no abuse. These are some of the ways that ICANN can help. And if we all do this, we would have a better secured internet for the future. We would have a next generation of internet users that are well prepared and thankful as well. Thank you very much, and that will be that for now. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Miracle. That was a really interesting presentation and also very relevant question. Roberto, please.
Yes, thank you. Excellent. I got your point. ICANN will be affected by this situation, and I can probably do something to make it better. But in Saturday and Sunday, you have been brought through a series of sessions where you have learned the different part of the communities and what they do exactly and so on. So in your opinion, if you had to choose to which stakeholder group or constituency or what part of the internet community would you choose to start your promotion about these things? In other words, I understand the point of your presentation. In practice, from where would you start? What would be your starting point to bring this problem to the ICANN community, besides the NextGen community? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Education is very localized. You cannot take a method that works in one area and spread it around. One of the first things to start with would be the regional bodies. So Naralo, Afralo, that would be the first place to start. They understand the challenges within their context. And then the next thing would be, how do you want to, based on the challenge, how do you want to solve that? Do you want to solve that by, educating teachers or engaging government to review curriculum? If you want to engage government to review curriculum, perhaps GAC. If you want to engage teachers, perhaps the NPO, right? Because they do a lot of social work. I'm guessing they would have members, that non-profits that are focused on education. So it really depends on how you want to approach it. Do you want to fund teachers, train teachers? Perhaps you want to look at that. Do you want to engage government? Because government, you need government approval to do anything around curriculum. So perhaps the GAC. I'm sure there are probably a couple others. And as I get very deep into the ICANN structure, I'll be able to figure out more areas that, we can push some of these recommendations through. Thank you.
Okay, Glenn, please.
Great, thank you, Glenn McKnight. I want to reiterate what Alfredo said earlier, but I want to just be a general comment. Whether it's K-12 youth or women, people of poverty, seniors, or people with disabilities, all those groups can be singled out that are largely marginalized within the ICANN community. So I want to encourage you to look beyond ICANN, not discouraging you, but beyond. This is just one of your steps in your journey. At the end of the aisle there is Judith Hellerstein. She's the chair for the ISOC Special Interest Group on Accessibility. You should reach out to her. ISOC has done a recent small course for educating people about people with special needs. They're a good group to approach to do that type of courses that Mercy, you're possibly looking at. I think on the youth issue, we formed a group about a year ago called the Dynamic Teen Coalition with IGF, which we're going to be speakers at in Norway. Good group to belong to, because we face the same issues that the K-12 are not represented. They're not going to get a grant or a fellowship. It's too young. And there's all kinds of issues. When you take somebody 13 or 14, they have to have their parent with them. It's not going to happen, but there's ways of doing it. So ISOC for one, there's down the road fellowships with IETF. There's a bunch of stuff, but I'm happy to talk to you about it. On the other comment on women, as you may know, Vanda's doing a DNS and women session, maybe today, I'm not sure, but she has a reception. They're absolutely very interested in getting young women involved. So if you haven't met Vanda, who did the women one? Okay, shame on you if you haven't met Vanda. If you haven't met Vanda, I'll introduce you. Great presentations. Thank you to the organizers, and especially the guy beside me, your mentor. Thank you.
Judith.
Yes, Judith Housing for the record. Very good presentation. Also, on what he was saying on the youth, there's a large issue of youth not being able to secure their identity because they're going on sites and they're losing, and they are incurring debts or losing their identity, and someone is masquerading and using their information. Currently, there's no laws about this because they may only find out about it as they enter college and university and try to get loans and find out they're totally blocked. And so there's a real effort to try to get awareness out on those issues, and so that's what you need to also look in about, any of these DNS abuse that's occurring on the teens, because it invariably hurts them later on when they can't get anything and there's no protection. So there's a lot more awareness that needs to be done on that area. Mostly because they are underage, so no one really, the government agencies are saying, oh, we only deal with people over 18 or voting age or who contribute to them monetarily in the society, and the kids are not. And so there's a lot of problems going on that. And happy also to talk to you about the IGF Dynamic Coalition on Accessibility and Disability. I'm not a member of the ISAC Accessibility Standing Group, but the older one, the Accessibility Special Interest Group, which is a project of ISAC New York, yes, just clarifying the terms. And also I co-lead the Dynamic Coalition on Accessibility and Disability. We would love to have as many people be active and join us. Thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that what you're saying is very important because there's a huge time bomb ticking. Three things I want to quickly highlight. Number one,
Very quickly.
We're not paying attention to special needs students. Current computing education curriculum is not taking care of special needs students. We're not taking care of minorities. We're not taking care of inclusivity. We have very few materials outside the English language. We don't have enough materials in Spanish and other languages. And the last one is that we are seeing a high rate of suicide. Young people, K-12 students, they're committing suicide because they're sharing information and their classmates are using it to bully them. Bad actors are using it to extort them. And it's a huge, if you check the rates, the suicide rate is increasing. And so we need to take care of those three things ASAP. And I think ICANN can really help, especially if someone is abusing someone's identity. We should be able to, from the roots, figure out how to limit access to that. Thank you very much.